Okay, so let's move to Unit 6. This is appreciating visual arts. So when we say visual arts, it is perceived in the eyes, in the sight. Okay, so paulit-ulit na natin sinasabi na art is a universal language of all humans. So it is used to communicate, to express, and so on and so forth. So in this unit, you will be familiarized to the three components of visual arts, and that is fine arts, decorative arts, and contemporary arts. So, these things naman are not very alien na sa inyo. So, let's move on to topic 1. So, this is about visual artworks and artists. So, yun nga sabi ko kanina, visual arts are art forms intended to be appreciated or perceived primarily by sight. When we say visual, eyes. Okay? So, it has three categories. We have fine arts, decorative arts, and contemporary arts. When we say fine arts, it is sa aesthetic, beauty, yan, mga yan, intellectual purposes. So, examples are paintings, sculptures, drawings, watercolor, graphics, and architecture. So, most of which, pang-design, pang display, mga yan. So, it shows beauty, aesthetic, and intellectual purposes. And the perception of artistic qualities requires a refined judgment, usually referred to as having good taste or artistic taste. Yeah. Decorative arts naman applies design and decoration to everyday objects in order to make them aesthetically pleasing. So, sa fine arts, more on a display. But decorative arts, para din siyang, it has function art, parang ganon. Decorative arts, things that you might use every day, but it has a beauty in it. It is pleasing in the eyes. That's the meaning of it. So it includes tapestry, ceramics, mosaic art, glass art, jewelry, tattoo, woodwork, interior design, and so on and so forth. Contemporary arts naman, this is conceived in the modern times. So ito yung photography, art, print, visual art, animation, graffiti, and installation art. Most of which, yan na yung very dominant sa panahon natin ngayon. Hindi na talaga natin masyadong nakikita yung mga paintings kasi mostly sa atin gumagamit na ng digital arts. So, hindi na talaga uso yung mga paintings. Talagang mostly photography, art print, yan yung mga ginagamit para ate. Almost everyday na sa atin. So, the art forms are produced in a globally influenced, culturally diverse, and technologically advancing world. So, in our times. So, we have mediums of visual arts. So, when we say medium, it denotes the way or methods by which an artist communicates his idea. So, these are the materials which are used by the artist. So, since visual arts are those seen by the eyes, it occupies space. Okay? So, two-dimensional, alam nyo na yan, na-discuss na natin yan, yung painting, drawing, tapestry, printmaking, and photography. When we say three-dimensional naman, it is our sculpture, architecture, ceramics, jewelry, and so on and so forth. So, let's have two-dimensional first. Painting. So, this is an application of pigment to a usually flat surface. When we say pigment, it is color. So, each medium exerts a pronounced effect on the finished product. So, it is capable of different treatment. It determines the stroke. So, yan. Madalas nyo naman, alam nyo naman ng painting. We have watercolors. So, this is made up of pigment mixed with water, which after mixing using brush is applied into the paper. So, we have, I think this is gouache. So, it is an opaque color, opaque watercolor painting which effects caused by the white water paper color used. So, alam ko marami na kayo nakikitang ganyan watercolor painting. So, maganda siyang tingnan talaga. Kasi, alam mo yun, yung variation ng color, nag-iiba-iba when you use watercolor, when you're mixing it with water. So, yung itong gouache na to, it is done by mixing zinc white with regular watercolor paints to tone it down and produce a dramatic effect. Yung sabi ko kanina, it has a variation from dark to light, so may dramatic effect when we are using watercolor. Next, we have fresco. So when we say fresco, it is a painting technique done on a wet plastered wall. So meron ng parang makintab kasi siya when it is done on a wet plastered wall. So sabi dito, glowing is the primary characteristic of this kind of painting. It is one of the oldest times of painting. So ito yung mga panahon pa ng mga Athens, yung mga yan. So mga panahon ni Michelangelo, yung mga yan. So next, we have tempera. Tempera is also called egg tempera. So it is a method of painting that employs an emulsion of water, egg yolk, or whole eggs, sometimes with little glue, honey, or milk. So tempera is applied onto a prepared surface. Wood panel painting is prepared with layers of gesso. So it is a mixture of size and chalk. So ito yung mga ginagamit noong unang panahon, which is nowadays, hindi na masyado natin ginagamit since we are more into contemporary arts talaga. Next, we have pastel. Pastel is a painting medium that consists of color pigment in powder and a binder compounded with gum water. So it is very adaptable medium whose colors are resplendent by the finished product. It is difficult to preserve because the chalk can rub off. Kaya sabi nga nila, yung mga paintings nung, I think this, may painting na itong mga to naka, naka-post sa mga exhibits, sa mga museums, you cannot touch them because our fingers have natural oils. So when you touch a paint, an art piece that is made out of pastel, you might, parang masisira mo siya dahil sa natural oil ng kamay mo. So, it is very difficult to preserve, especially na may moist, especially na we live in a very humid country. May moist, so hindi talaga siya ma-preserve ng sobrang tagal. Next, we have encaustic. Encaustic painting is a mixed media technique that involves using heated wax or beeswax added with colored pigment. So a prepared surface like wood, canvas, and other materials is usually applied with liquid or paste. So this kind of painting produces luster and brilliance. So the term comes from Greek meaning burning in. Okay, next we have oil. So oil painting is one of the most high-priced and high-valued arts. Pinakamahal and pinaka talagang tinetreasure. Why? Because very rare siya and very costly. Mahal ang mga oil painting products. So, pigments are mixed with linseed oil or turpentine and applied to the canvas and appears glossy and lasts long. So, example of that are Planting Rice by Fernando Amorsolo, Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, Donny Tondo, and many more. Next, we have acrylic. Acrylic is a synthetic paint mixed with acrylic emulsion binder for the surface overlaying of the artwork. Ito yung madalas ginagamit ng mga painters natin. Acrylic, since mura siya, and at the same time, madali lang din siya i-preserve. It has a quick drying characteristics and flexibility of oil, thus making it one of the favorites of artists. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na madali siyang gamitin, madali siyang mahanap, madali siyang mabili, very affordable, and yeah, flexible siya. It can work on oil and fast drying and can be preserved really well. So acrylics evolved over time. So the acrylic paint of earlier times are different from today's, but they share the same characteristics, which are mixable, easily cleaned or thinned by water, and dry fairly quickly. Next, acrylic act as a vehicle for any kind of pigment and are capable of providing both the transparent brilliance of watercolor and the density of oil paint, as you can see in this picture. Next, we move on to mosaic. So when we say mosaic, it is the art of creating images with an assemblage of small pieces of colored glass, stone, or other materials, often glued on a surface with plaster or cement. Lagi natin nakikita yan, and lagi natin ginagawa nung elementary pa tayo na uh, we use different images, we use different textures, we use different materials, and then we combine them. We combine the small pieces to make it a piece of art, or one 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 piece of art. So it is a 4,000-year-old practice, and the earliest known examples of mosaics made of brilliant different materials were found at the temple building in Mesopotamia and are dated second half of third millennium. So napakatagal. So it consists of pieces of colored stone, shells, and ivory. One good thing about mosaic is you can get materials from your environment. Di ba? So, kahit lacking ka sa materials, if you have glue, if you have cement, if you have plaster, you can work with mosaic. Kasi anything that you can see in the environment, your surroundings can be a material for a mosaic. Next, we move on to stained glass. So this stained glass naman are often seen in churches or in chapels. So these are made by conjoining small pieces of pre-cut stained glass that is clasped by strips or of lead, usually reinforced with iron bars that form heavy black lines. So yun yung sabi ko, it is mostly used in church windows, but also sometimes used in rose windows in formal buildings. Next, we have tapestry or textile. When we say tapestry or textile, it is a piece of fabric with images or design formed by weaving colored threads or by embroidering on canvas. Noong unang panahon, yung mga royals natin, lagi talaga may tapestry. Ngayon, ewan ko lang kung meron pang gumagamit ng tapestry, pero ito kasi naging tradition na nila na uh, parang similar sa cross-stitch but not really the cross-stitch style. But when we say tapestry, it has a story kasi behind. So it is a painting or tinahi talaga in-embroid nila sa tela and then dinidikit talaga sa wall. Ayan. And broadly, the name has been used for almost any heavy material, hand woven, machine woven, and even embroidered, used to cover furniture, walls, or floors. Next, we have drawing. So, very familiar na tayo dyan. It is done on a light colored surface like paper, wood, canvas, using pencil, pen and ink, or charcoal. So, it is our go-to when we say art. It's either we go to acrylic or drawing, pencil drawing. Next, pencils are made of graphite and are graded to indicate the different degrees of hardness and softness. So kung may kakilala kayong mga architect, mga artist, they're using pencils that have different grades, different graphite, different numbers, depending on the thickness and the, yeah, yung texture niya. So to create these lines, the hard pencils are used, and for creating textures and shades, the soft ones are used. Next, we have pen and ink. So it is executed with the use of black and other colored ink. So examples, India ink, Chinese ink, liners, markers, and regular ball pen. So maraming artists ngayon na they can create this masterpiece, faces of people with the use of ball pen. How amazing. And pen, pencil, and ball pen are one of the go-to rin ng mga artists since it is very affordable nga and is easy to find. So it is, yeah, ito yung mga ginagamit talaga mga cartoonists, illustrators natin. We have charcoal. Charcoal is a drawing material made of carbon in different forms like stick, compressed, powder, and vine. So it is used in representing broad masses of light and shadow by blending, smearing, or smudging over paper and other light-colored surfaces. So this one naman is harder than the pencil since you're working with charcoal. So it is really hard um, to balance it. But if you're really an artist, talagang may enjoy mo yung pag-blending ng mga mga yung dark and lights. Next, we have crayons. So these are colored sticks made from paraffin wax mixed with pigments. So alam na natin yan. Next, we have printmaking. So this is done for duplicating or making multiple copies of an original drawing. So ito yung go-to din natin. It is done by creating an artist plate which can be either be from an original work or from an image which can later transferred to white paper using black ink. So ever since, talagang ginagawa na yan. Next, we have lithography. So when we say lithography, it is to write on stone. It is a reproduction process that uses a leveled stone or metal plate on which the positive image areas are worked by means of grease substance so that the ink will stick to the surface while the negative image areas are made ink repellent. So, yun nga, to write on stone. So, it came from the Greek word lithos, meaning stone, and graphene, to meaning to write. It was invented in the late 18th century. So, lithography is a printing process established on the point that grease and water do not blend. So, the image is mirrored to a level yet grained surface. Next, move on to tattoo. So, very familiar naman na tayo dyan. And one example of that is wangod. So tattoo is the permanent insertion of ink below the skin using a sharp instrument. So humans have done tattooing for cosmetic and ritual purposes. Mostly, noong unang panahon talaga, it is for ritual purposes. Since at least the Neolithic era. Some tattoo artists are still using traditional techniques, tools, and pigments. So in the Philippines, the most notable traditional tattoo artist is Apo Wangod from Kalinga province, who uses lemon, thorn, and charcoal ink for her art. Next, we have photography and pictorialism. When we say photography, it is the art of utilization and practice of creating long-lasting images by recording light and other electromagnetic radiation. So, alam na natin yan. Pictorialism naman is photography that emphasizes beauty of subject matter, tonality, and composition rather than documentation of reality. So, the pictorialist perspective was born in the late 1860s. It approached the camera as the tool like the paintbrush and chisel could be used to make an artist's statement. Okay, let's have graffiti. Graffiti are writing on or drawings that have been scribbled, scratched, or painted illicitly on wall or other surfaces, often within public view. So yan yung mga nakikita natin madalas and somewhat labeled as vandalism, pero others may find it as graffiti. So it came from the Italian word graffiato, means scratch. So it is a practice na ever since then uh, it comes from the forefront of the modern art movement in the second half of 20th century. Next, we have three-dimensional art. So, alam niyo naman na yan. Sculpture is one example. So, the three classifications are freestanding, relief, and environmental. So, the mediums used in sculpture are further discussed here. So, here are some notable sculptures. We have David, Venus de Milo, Terracotta Warriors UP Oblation, Gomburza, Rizal Monument, Edsa Shrine, and Blood Compact. Next, we have stone. So this is a hard substance formed from mineral and earth material whose finished product is rough and dull look. So it includes sandstone, granite, basalt, marble, and limestone. We have jade. It is a semi-precious green and whitish stone, which is highly esteemed and widely used in China as an ornamental stone in carving and jewelry. And they believe jade kasi is a good luck. Ivory is hard white or cream-colored substance from tusks of animals like elephants, walrus, and etc. Next, we have metals. So it is one of the favorite materials used by sculptures because of its ductility, conductivity, and luster. So you can shape it whatever you want. Metals are used as mediums for sculpture. It is examples of those are copper, brass, bronze, silver, gold, lead, and aluminum. We have plaster. It is a mixture of lime, water, and sand. So ito yung mga ginagamit sa mannequins. So ginagamit siya for molds, yan, models, architectural decorations, and other indoor sculpture. Next, we have clay. It is an earthy material that consists primarily of hydrated aluminum silicates. And yan, yung mga pottery, ceramics, sculpture, and bricks. Glass. Alam niyo naman na yan, a hard, brittle, transparent, or translucent substance produced by silica, silicates, sand, soda, and lime. Next, we have wood, sculpture medium most comfortable to carve at any other medium since it is soft and mas madali talaga siyang style. Yan yung ginagamit talaga ever since. So, ginagamit natin mga woods are mahogany, dapdap, dawan, nara, and daw. Next, we move on to architecture. So, when we say architecture, it is the art and technique of designing and building as distinguished from skills associated with construction. So it serves two uh, two requirements. So it serves as utilitarian and aesthetic. So materials used for architecture are stone, bricks, wood, concrete, iron, and steel. So characteristics that distinguish a work of an architect or architecture is the suitability of work to be used by human beings in general and the adaptability of it to particular human activities. So, ang bahay talaga, hindi siya pwedeng basta-basta itatayo na lang. It needs professionals. So, pag nagpapatayo ka ng bahay, talagang maraming involved and one of this is architects. Next, the stability and permanence of work construction and the communication of experience, aesthetics, and ideas through its form. So, ulitin ko, dalawa ang parang purpose talaga ng isang architect and that is to serve both in utilitarian and aesthetic. So, they should provide a house na safe to live in and at the same time, they should provide a house na aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Okay, next we have ceramic art. So ceramic is made from ceramic materials, including clay. Ceramics is derived from the Greek word keramos, meaning potter's clay. So it is made from clay bodies and fired in kiln. So pinapainitan yan. Next, we have four creative process in making ceramics. So with that, number one, forming, firing, glazing, and refiring. Next, move on to animation. Animation is a technique in which images are manipulated to appear as moving forms. Very, very notable naman na sa panahon natin ngayon ng animation. So it is individual drawings, paintings, or illustrations that are photographed frame by frame. Alam nyo, noong unang panahon talagang mano-mano nilang dinodrawing yan. So, 24 frames na pabilisan para gumalaw yung drawing. Pero now kasi, we have advanced technology. Kaya, napapagalaw na nila without, hindi na talaga yung mano-mano tulad noon. Next, we move on to movie production or filmmaking. So, it is a process of making a film. So, the art of motion pictures is exceedingly complex, requiring contributions from nearly all the other arts as well as countless technical skills. So, tulad din yan ng pagpapagawa ng bahay. It involves engineer, architect, sanitary engineer, electrical engineer, and so on and so forth. Ganon din sa paggawa ng film. Sa sound, meron sa sound recording, meron sa photography, meron sa optics, and marami. Kaya pag nanonood ka ng movie sa last part, ang dami palang mga people behind the movie. Next, we move on to jewelry. Jewelry is a decorative object worn on clothes or body that are usually made from valuable metals such as gold, silver, and other precious stones. Next, installation art. This is an artistic genre that involves the configuration or installation of object in a space such as a room or a warehouse. So, alam ko nakikita nyo naman na yan using, we use things tulad nitong payong, sa taas naman yung bicycles. So, it is, the term installation art is used to describe large-scale mixed media constructions. Okay? Next, we move on sa ating topic 2. So, this one is understanding the subjects of visual arts and their elements and principles. So, sabi dito, viewers should demonstrate higher order of thinking, like analyzing, evaluating, synthesizing information and ideas from visual observation. So, ang painting talaga, uh, kahit sinabi nung artist na wala talagang meaning behind para sa kanya, you as a viewer, automatic na yung utak natin na we analyze, we evaluate, and we synthesize. So we have 4 features in doing the visual art analysis. So we have theme, mode, tone, and composition. So theme is the meaning of the painting rather than the subject, which is specific and basic. So the theme is deeper and broader and conveys something more universal. So themes are usually implied rather than explicitly stated. So yeah, next we move on to mood, atmosphere in a painting or feelings expressed. So maramdaman mo yan if the painting is gloomy, the painting is bright, it means the it is happy, it is a happy painting. Pero pag puro dark tones ang ginamit, it shows gloomy or it shows sadness, it shows sorrows. Alam niyo naman yan. Next, we move on to tone. So tone refers to lightness or darkness of color use. So it is used to create a contrast of light and dark, to create an illusion of form, to create a dramatic or tranquil atmosphere, to create a sense of depth and distance, to create a rhythm pattern within a composition. So sa color talaga, yung variation ng darkness to light, um, malaki ang impact niyan. Malaki. Malaki ang nagagawa niyan to create drama, to create emphasis, to create illusions, and so on and so forth. Next, we have composition. It is the underlying structure of the art that refers to where the artist placed the subject matter. So, analyzing the composition of visual art means seeing it as off-centered, centered, disoriented, done with the rule of thirds. So, composition, makikita niyo yan when you see a painting. May mga painting na nandun sa sentro lang. May mga painting na nandun lang sa side. May mga painting na disoriented, parang ang gulo-gulo. May mga painting naman talaga na nag-follow ng rule of thirds. So, yun yung meaning ni composition. Ano yung structure ng art, dun, anong structure ng mga components dun sa artwork na yun. Next, we move on to the analysis of Dance of Life by Edvard Munch. So, it is a painting of dancing couples, as you can see in the picture. So the young woman with a white floral dress stands watching, which symbolizes innocence and youth. Kasi pag kabataan ka pa, you observe the environment, and innocente ka pa talaga. The composition centers on a man in black and a woman in red. So red implies love, passion, and pain. Her dress cloaks his feet and envelopes him. He has no choice but to follow. So their faces are, it seems like zombies. So on the right, an old woman is an embellished black dress stands apart, thin face, wrinkled, hands clasped tight. So the old woman signifies loneliness and sorrow. And the moon in the sky reflects on the water. So, but deep colors are uncomfortable. Movement among the figures rendered the dance less than festive. So, hindi masyadong masaya since as you can see in the emotion of their face. So, the characters are surrounded by outlines that emphasize the rounded shapes rather than individuals. So, the mood is uneasy, the tone is dark, the theme conveys that various stages of woman's life and passage of time and death rather than family love and closeness. As you can see, from youth to we have different interpretations of the picture, but you can see that it is the different stages of a woman. So from youth to a certain point that you're discovering things, and to a certain point that you became old and you're left alone, and yeah, mangyayari yung mga death or breakup. So yun yung stages ng woman. Next, the proper use of the rules of art is essential of success of any visual artwork. So the principles of art is the first set of rules or guidelines. The second set of rules is the elements of art. Move on muna sa principles of visual art. So this means this is what artists use to organize elements within a work of art. We have number one, harmony. So combining similar elements in an artwork. So to accent their similarities. Kasi pag walang harmony yung artwork mo, it looks very disoriented, and it's so hard to catch the meaning of it. But when it is harmonious to each other, madali mong ma, parang madali mong masisiyasat or madali mong ma-interpret. Next, we have rhythm. So it indicates movement. So it is created by carefully placement of repeated elements in a work of art to cause a visual tempo or beat. Next, we have balance. So it is a blending of elements to add a feeling of equilibrium or stability to a work of art. So is it symmetrical or asymmetrical? Yung mga yan. Proportion, it is the relationship of individual elements to the whole of each other. Next, emphasis, mixing elements to stress the differences between those elements. Variety means diversity, differences, parang ganun. Diversity or contrast. It is achieved by using different shapes, sizes, or colors in a work of art. Next, we have movement. Movement is applied to create the look or the feel of action and to guide the viewer's eye throughout the work of art. Next, move on to analysis of the Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. So it is best explained uh, using the principles of art. Number one is harmony. So by using similar elements throughout the composition, it makes sure na it does not look too intricate. As you can see naman in the painting, the regularity of the lines through the painting gives a feeling of harmony. As you can see, very similar, mostly circular motions, mostly wavy motions. So, yung mga elements sa painting, may harmony talaga. Next, rhythm. Rhythm is a type of movement in painting and drawing. In the painting, it is seen the repetition of shapes. Nakita nyo yan, interchanging of lights and shades, and it also gives a sense of rhythm. Next, balance. So the large dark tree helps to balance the bright moon in the opposite corner. Next, proportion. The painting has a perfect proportion. Nothing looks like out of place. Since harmonious siya, kasi it used similar elements and very proportioned talaga siya. Next, we have emphasis. Emphasis is uh, focus of interest that pulls the spectator's eye to significant parts of artworks. The emphasis of the painting is the bright yellow moon. Next, variety. You can find variety in the bright and dark colors, as well as the cool and warm colors, and the swirls and the curves of the hills next to the sharpness in the shape of the houses. Next, we have movement. So the dark tree moves your eye up and it twirls and spin, carry your eye to the moon. The color in the moon leads your eye to the light yellow streak beneath it, which in turn leads your eye back to the dark tree. So, mahalaga ang movement to guide us, to guide the viewer on how you will interpret the artwork. Next, we move on to elements and principles of visual arts. Number one, we have line. So it is illustrated by a point moving in space. So they may be 2 or 3 dimensional, descriptive, implied, and abstract. So we have straight, curved, angular, flowing, horizontal, vertical, diagonal, and so on and so forth. Number two, we have shape. Shape is a 2D, flat, restrained to height and width. Next, we have form. three-dimensional since it encloses volume, it includes weight, height, depth, width, and so on and so forth. So examples of that are cube, sphere, pyramid, or cylinder. Next, we have space. Space is a positive and negative areas that are defined or sense of depth achieved in a work of art. Next, color. We have three characteristics. We have hue, value, and intensity. Hue is the name of the color. Value is lightness and darkness. Intensity is the degree of brightness and purity. Next, we have number 6, texture. Texture is really important, especially when you are making 3D artworks. So textures can be rough, smooth, real, implied, and repeating. Next, we move on to analysis of the School of Athens by Rafael Sanzello. So this one is an example which manifestly embodies line, shape, color, and form. So content, as you can see in the picture, the painting subject is not a school but an assembly of significant Greek philosophers. So the medium, the artwork was painted in fresco, which means it was done on a wet plastered wall. Next, composition. It is done in a pyramidal arrangement, which is mm, which is a prominent characteristic of Raphael and higher uh, Renaissance. Lines and forms. So the way of clothing of the figures falls on their bodies gives them a sense of underlying body structure. So all the lines converge between Plato and Aristotle heads, which gives it a pyramidal composition. So there are also interest in an accurate body proportion. Next, we have shape. Next, we have shape. So this is warm light is more focused on the people at the back. So the shadow is slightly casted on the figures. So we have chiaroscuro. So it refers to the use of light and dark to create the illusion of three-dimensional volume on a flat surface. Next, we have space. So Raphael used linear perspective and has a vanishing point, so the painting looks like it goes back in space. He also paints the figures in the foreground larger than the rest, which add sense of space. Next, we have color. So mostly, Raphael used natural colors with lots of browns and grays. Next, texture. The texture of the painting are mostly solid and flat, created by floor and walls. So it creates the feeling that if someone touches the wall and floors, it could be smooth. So yeah, summary. So, pag-aralan natin yung visual arts, it has three categories. We have fine arts, decorative, and contemporary. Fine arts, aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Decorative, uh, somewhat utilitarian, but aesthetically pleasing pa rin. And we have contemporary, the arts that are used in our times, in our the modern times. Next, uh, we have medium of visual arts, so it denotes the way by which an artist communicates his idea. So these are the materials which are used by an artist to interpret his feelings or thoughts. And one way of doing analysis of visual arts is using theme, mood, tone, and composition. And to further understand the visual arts, the elements and principles of visual arts are used. So principles of visual arts are harmony, rhythm, balance, proportion, emphasis, variety, and movement. And the elements of visual arts are line, shape, form, space, color, and texture, which I know na you mastered na since this is not really an alien na sa atin. This is very common words. So I hope na uh, may natutunan kayo